Bonjour mesdames et messieurs, je prie tout le monde de prendre place, comme ça on pourra commencer. Good morning ladies and gentlemen, I'm switching into English, so I hope you all have your headset ready. And welcome to all of you to this fourth edition of the International Conference on Sustainable Mobility, which is this year also the IRF Annual Conference 2022. The theme, it's now familiar to you: Decarbonise, Digitalise, Finance and Digitalise the road sector for more sustainable mobility and growth. And certainly, only a few weeks away from the COP, this is the right moment to have this kind of conversation. Let me introduce myself. My name is Susana Zamataro. I'm the Director General of the International Road Federation, and I will be also your Master of Ceremony today and the moderator of the very first panel in the opening session. We do have a very impressive lineup of speakers and dear friends, many of them in the front lines, and I really want to thank all of them for taking the time for being here today. They are all senior, but not for age. They are senior because of their experience and because of their expertise, and we're grateful to them for sharing and bringing this expertise and knowledge here today and share it with all of us. I want to thank you all as well, you, the participants, and I can't tell you how nice it feels to see faces in real world and not on a screen after these two terrible, very difficult years with COVID. So thank you so much. I know that some of you have traveled from very far away. We have a very dense program, so I will ask everyone to try and keep within time. A couple of practical information for us to move smoothly throughout the day. As you know, we have simultaneous translation, interpretation into French and English, so make sure you have your headsets. They are available outside if you don't have one. Do feel free to share on social media. You will see the hashtag flagging around somewhere, but make sure you use the right IRF official account for Twitter as well, the one from ADM, and let's make sure that from this room we also send and share knowledge and information throughout social media. To fully enjoy this experience, I also please ask you all to put your mobile phones on silent. It's a sign of respect as well for the speakers who will be on the panel today. Without further ado, I think I will welcome to the stage our host, and so I'd like to call to the stage, and please help me in welcoming Nizar Baraka. Is the Minister of Equipment and Water from the Kingdom of Morocco.
Mr. President of the Economic, Social and Environmental Council, ladies and gentlemen, presidents of international and national federations and associations, ladies and gentlemen, representatives of international organizations, ladies and gentlemen, chief executives, ladies and gentlemen, representatives of the media, ladies and gentlemen, panelists, Mr. General Director of the National Highway Company of Morocco, and President of the International Road Federation, ladies and gentlemen, honorable attendees. First of all, I would like to congratulate the organizer of this event, that is the International Conference on Sustainable Mobility, fruit of the partnership between ADM and IRF, and gathering all the stakeholders, whether they are institutional, technical, scientific, entrepreneurial, or associative. With the success of the first three editions, you have demonstrated your commitment and worked with energy and conviction to promote sustainable mobility. It's therefore a great pride to see that this meeting initiated in 2016 on the eve of COP22, is today a real platform for dialogue intended to exchange on the policies deployed, share experiences, capitalize on best practices, raise awareness, and finally, position sustainable mobility as a top of national priority. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in an unprecedented international context, highlighting a worsening climate crisis with repercussions felt in all territories. No one can now deny it. The alarm bells are regularly rang. For example, the latest IPCC report announced that the Paris Agreement will not be achieved. Unless strong, rapid, and sustainable policies and action are taken to reduce CO2 and methane emission, as well as other greenhouse gases. Indeed, while the Paris Agreement sets the objective of keeping the global temperature increase below 2 degrees Celsius or even 1.5 degrees Celsius, the UN announces that the global temperature has already increased by 1.1 degrees and that despite the effort made, we will reach a temperature increase of 2.7 degrees, which would of course be fatal, implying irreversible climate effects. This is also what our Sovereign, His Majesty Mohammed VI, recalled in his speech at the COP26. I quote, "In the wake of successive reports on climate change, one thing is clear to all. The darkest scenarios paint the bitter reality of humanity called upon to choose between the perilous temptation of abandoning itself to self-destructive complacency and the sincere and determined to engage without delay in practical measures likely to induce real change in the current paradigm that has proven ineffective." End of quote. We are therefore at a turning point where it's urgent to decarbonize the world economy and thus reduce greenhouse gas emission by half by 2030 and between 63 and by 2050. The challenge is global and engage all nations and all sectors with gravity and responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today for the 4th edition of the International Conference on Sustainable Mobility, with the theme resolutely turned toward action, that of decarbonize, finance, and digitalize road sector for sustainable mobility and growth. Ladies and gentlemen, the transport sector is the second largest emitter of greenhouse gases, just after electricity production on an international scale. Transport is responsible for a quarter of greenhouse gas emissions, 3/4 of which are attributed to road transport. Based on this observation, the European Commission has already set the objective of eliminating thermal vehicles from its territory by 2050, especially by banning the sale of new fossil fuel vehicles as early as 2035. At the same time, in recent years, we have seen the sector being enriched with solutions for the circular economy, electrification, alternative fuels, with green hydrogen, biogas, car sharing services, carpooling. All these solutions and many others are likely to transform the landscape. They represent real opportunities for decarbonization, but also constitute a major challenge affecting infrastructure, uses, regulations, and requiring the development of new value chain. Ladies and gentlemen, Morocco's commitment is multidimensional in the face of the climate emergency. At the international level, the Kingdom has raised its level of ambition, already high initially, to a conditional greenhouse gas reduction target of 45.5% and an unconditional target of 18.3%. The national determined contribution, the NDCs, includes 61 measures with a total budget of nearly $40 billion, 22 of which are conditional on international financing support. At the same time, Morocco is working hard to implement the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the UN's 2030 Agenda, and has distinguished itself by demonstrating a real ability to monitor progress. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, Morocco is deeply invested in the fight against climate change, despite its low contribution to greenhouse gas emission. It's worth noting that the Kingdom has undertaken, under the vision of His Majesty, and this since 2009, the turn of the energy transition, particularly through the National Energy Strategy promoting the development of renewable energy, energy efficiency, and regional integration. This bold and pioneering choice has enabled the country to achieve an energy mix of nearly 40% renewable energy, a target raised to 52% by 2030. Moreover, the Kingdom intends to consolidate its position as a regional leader in competitive green energy by 2035 after conducting a major national consultation which resulted in a new development model whose results underline a strong will for Morocco to ensure itself in an inclusive green economy that brings opportunities and growth and positions electric mobility and alternative mobility as geostrategic priorities. Based on the guidelines of the new development model as well as of Paris Agreement, Morocco has developed a long-term low-carbon strategy published in October 2021, which aims at 40% of renewable energy in the total energy consumption and which sets up the electrification of users, the digital transition, the investment in the development of new low-carbon transport infrastructure, and the integration of green hydrogen for the decarbonization of transport as strategic development axis. Ladies and gentlemen, before launching the debates and giving the floor to our eminent speakers, allow me to conclude my speech on a positive note by sharing with you a key figure that of 12 million jobs in the renewable energy sector worldwide, translating into a net increase of 700,000 new jobs created in 2021. This is also the purpose of the decarbonization and more broadly the energy transition. And this is the bet we are taking for our country. And now it's time to wish you a fruitful exchanges and debates, a pleasant stay in this beautiful city of Marrakech, and to thank you for your kind attention. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Ministre. Je vous remercie aussi. I will switch into English because it's easier. My thanks to the interpreters who are going to juggle with me today. Thank you for stressing the multidimensional approach, which is quite crucial in this debate. Thank you for underlining as well how much investment that requires, and most of it for reminding us the strong commitment that the Kingdom of Morocco has made to renewable energy and efficiency. I appreciated also the fact that you referred to the social part and the jobs, the 12 million jobs that all this transition is going to require. It's not by chance, in fact, that the title of this conference has been shaped in this way. We're going to look into these three main topics: decarbonize, finance, and digitalize. But we want to do so by not forgetting people and economies, yes, but people as well, and how much this transition will impact the life of every one of us. Thank you. Merci, monsieur. I would like now to call to the stage my president, the president of the International Road Federation, who is also the Director General of Autoroutes du Maroc, Moroccan Highways. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Mr. Anwar Benazouz.
Your Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored and very happy for the opportunity to welcome you all on behalf of the International Road Federation to this edition of the IRF Annual Conference, being hosted here in Morocco, thanks to generous hospitality of the Kingdom of Morocco and the support of our sponsors for this event. We have an impressive lineup of speakers today, and I want to express my gratitude to all of them for having responded positively to this invitation. My thanks also to all of you who have traveled from far to be here today. We have attendance literally from 5 continents. It is a testimony that you find value in our work and that we are being able to fulfill the IRF's core mission, that is to facilitate the exchange of knowledge and expertise, foster partnerships and collaboration, and work in collaboration with others to shape policy and to advocate for sustainable mobility. IRF is a membership-based organization with headquarters in Geneva, but operating globally and representing leading corporate and institutional players drawn from the road mobility sectors since 1948. With a presence and network on over 5 continents, IRF is reputed in the sector for its untiring effort to build capacity around the world and for being a hub of knowledge, expertise, and contacts. An expertise that we have put at the service of the sector and beyond, thanks also to the IRF World Road Statistics, which celebrate this year 58 years, and the major policy shift on which you will hear about later today and that we will celebrate together. With COP27 only a few weeks away, there could not be a better moment for us to come together as a community to talk about decarbonization, finance, digitalization, and overall how to innovate to ensure a sustainable mobility and growth for all. And I want to stress this word "for all," because while addressing the daunting challenges in front of us, we need to make sure that we leave no one behind. And this will require a much higher level of concerted action than that we have been able to stage so far, because siloed approaches could hamper rather than support the development of a mobility that is inclusive and sustainable for all. We need to learn system thinking. We need to build true partnerships to deliver on these critical issues. Faithful to our mission of enablers, when it comes to partnerships, we have convened today to this gathering other leading organizations from our sector. ASECAP, the European Association of Tollway Operations, IRU, the International Road Transport Union, ITA, International Tunneling Association, ERTICO ITS Europe, IBTTA, International Bridge Tunneling and Turnpike Association in the USA, IRF, the European Road Federation, IRAP, the International Road Assessment Program. We call them sister organizations, not only because we work in the transport sectors, but also for ties that we have developed over the year and because we value their work and contribution. So let me take this opportunity to thank them for all being present today and represented at the highest level and for bringing to the table their expertise. This edition of the conference has a strong focus on action, on best practices, and innovation. The arrival of new digital technologies is enabling efficiency improvements in existing transport systems, as well as making them more user-friendly and sustainable. But let's not fool ourselves. Transforming mobility requires more than just technology and infrastructure. It requires a system change, and that will only happen if we work together. In closing, I want to quote the President of Egypt, who will be hosting COP27. We have an opportunity to showcase unity against an existential threat that we can only overcome through concerted action and effective implementation. I hope this event will help us build these bridges, help find solutions together. I look forward to our exchanges, and I wish you all good discussions. Thank you very much.
System thinking, partnerships, action, and innovation for the keywords I've captured from this speech, and I can reassure you we're going to go back to this quite a bit throughout the conversation today. Now let me please welcome to the stage Ahmed Reda Shami. He's the president of the Economic, Social, and Environmental Council here in Morocco. Thank you.
Good morning. I hope that you had a great trip coming here. I'm not hearing any answer, so it means that it was great. I'm just trying to make sure that my computer works. Interesting. It was working. There we go. Minister, distinguished participants in your respective ranks and titles, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a pleasure to take part in this international conference convened with focus on sustainable mobility and development. I was asked by the organizers, in fact by her, to discuss specifically energy transition, electric mobility, hydrogen, along with carbon tax schemes. As a strategic and priority project, the energy transition will contribute significantly to Morocco's economic, social, and environmental development by accelerating the development of renewable energies and energy efficiency. In this regard, Morocco's new development model, as well as the council I chair, called for making green energy a lever of attractiveness while strengthening the country's energy security. Ladies and gentlemen, Morocco imports 90% of its energy needs. This forces the country into a position of dependency and consequently leaves it especially vulnerable to external energy shocks. And we all know we can have just one situation in our minds today. To deal with this situation and to step up its energy sovereignty while pursuing its ambitious environmental action on the climate change challenge, Morocco launched in 2009 a promising renewable energy strategy. This enabled our country to build, by the end of 2021, a diversified energy mix where renewable energy share stood at 37.8% of the total. Minister said 40%. I'm just being a little bit more precise than he was. In 2021, Morocco committed achieving an 80% share of renewable energies in its energy mix as part of its low-carbon strategy for 2050. He talked about 50%, but that was by 2030. So by 2050, we want to be at 80% of renewable energy share in our energy mix, which is quite challenging. I talk about that. We also committed to accelerate the electrification of all users, invest in the development of new low-carbon transportation infrastructure, and develop green hydrogen for the decarbonization of the industry, of the economy. Ladies and gentlemen, I am confident that with the necessary efforts, Morocco can meet the 80% challenge by 2050. Why? Because Morocco has an enormous potential of renewable energy, mainly solar and wind. Indeed, just to give you some idea, the solar potential of Morocco is extremely high, with annual solar irradiance values exceeding 2,300 kilowatt-hour per square meter. That's very high, when you take irradiance, solar irradiance. If you go and you look at the wind, we can reach load factors up to 6,000 hours a year. That's in Dakhla, that's the southern part of Morocco, but we can be also around 4,000, 5,000 hours a year, which is very high load factor. So given these predispositions in the wind and solar energy, Morocco boasts an immense renewable energy potential equaling, believe it or not, in tons of oil equivalent, that of Venezuela or Nigeria. So we have the same potential, the energy potential as Venezuela or Nigeria, but it's a green energy. The potential is being fulfilled today through over 111 energy projects at different stages of development. I don't have time to go into this, just to cite the landmark of this project, which is the Noor Solar Project, where basically we have more than 830 megawatts installed, which makes it one of the largest solar plants in the world. However, to reach the 80%, this is going to be very challenging to deal with intermittency, l'intermittence, and of course, investing in smart grids, in storage solutions. Hopefully, we'll see some great technology advancement in storage, and also small-scale renewable energy development and decentralization, as well as, which is a very interesting point, how we manage demand, of electricity. And this, of course, desalination stations, the minister has touched a little bit on it, development of green hydrogen, electric transport activity. These, when you have all these different users, then you manage the demand better, and you can also act on the supply. Ladies and gentlemen, Morocco, of course, goes just beyond producing green energy. It gives a strategic dimension to the various deployment of this type of energy, the supply side, and here we're going to talk about the side, the supply with the demand side. Desalination of seawater, electric mobility, green hydrogen, and decarbonization of industry are all large-scale projects that fall into this dimension. Seawater desalination is vital field of action, and the minister can talk about this, in length, given the water stress that we know that we have to face in this country. The importance given to it as a top national priority is evidenced in the wide range of seawater desalination plants that the public authorities have built or are building, to be correct, are building in many cities across the kingdom. The shift towards, of course, if you want to have desalination work, and you need to make sure that the cost of production is low, and that can be done only through renewable energies. So this is where the two come together. Concerning electric mobility, our country has made undeniably significant progress in the development of modern infrastructure, as well as in terms of modes of transport, including sustainable ones, as evidenced in a number of its projects, including the LGV, the high-speed rail lines, the tramways, and the electrical high-speed busways. However, Morocco should continue to build on its record of achievement in the automotive industry and further consolidate its position on the global value chain of electrical vehicles. I don't know if you know that, but in 2016, first quarter of 2016, exports of cars in Morocco exceeded exports of phosphates. So the minister and I, we were quite happy, because it means that we are transforming the industry or the economy from raw material-based to really industrial-based and manufactured product-based. Needless to recall here that the EU is committed to its target of accelerated transition to electric mobility, with the sale of thermal vehicles supposed to be banned in Europe as of 2035. This is just a major paradigm shift. My fear is that they're going to still sell these thermal vehicles in other parts of the world, maybe here, or since I know that we have 5 continents, maybe in the other 4 continents that are represented here. But anyway, we'll see. However, developing the ecosystem of electric vehicles requires some necessary conditions, most notably, of course, controlling the production costs, and this can come by, again, renewable energies, renewable electricity at very low cost, leveraging the existing automotive ecosystem and infrastructure in place for quality integrated networks. We have strong thermal car industry. How can we leverage the ecosystem to go to the electric vehicle? Of course, you need also to work on the battery side. Battery for electric vehicles is 40% of total cost, so having a giga factory for batteries is gigabattery factory is something that the government is working on very hard, and hopefully it will happen. Of course, there is also all the investment on human capital, on R&D, and of course it has to be through partnerships. And this is where Anwar, the president, talked about partnerships. It's also relevant in this in this topic that I'm covering now. And finally, we need also to make sure that we can ensure a stable supply of strategic and critical minerals. Here we have again an advantage. Morocco has very rich mines of cobalt, and you know that cobalt can be used also in the vehicle batteries. And good news is we are making some inroads here. Future BMW and Renault electric car batteries will be powered by Moroccan cobalt. Finally, on the usage side, it is necessary also to underline the need to develop the green hydrogen sector at the national level. Green hydrogen is a clean fuel that can decarbonize multiple economic sectors. Morocco can become a key player in the development of the green hydrogen sector regionally. In fact, Morocco can produce 4% of the global demand for green molecules. In its Power to X roadmap, the World Energy Council has identified Morocco as one of the 6 countries in the world with a strong potential for the production and export of hydrogen and green derivatives. Of course, can H2, but ammoniac also can be exported by adding azote. Realizing the full potential of this opportunity and with the view to develop a competitive green hydrogen sector, Morocco has set out an ambitious green hydrogen roadmap. We have a number of green hydrogen pilot projects going on as we speak. There is a cluster that is called the Hydrogen Cluster, Green HU, which brings together partners from the public sector, but also from the private sector, including, for example, ENGIE from France, Siemens Energy from Germany, and many others. Achieving the goal or achieving this ambitious goal to become a key player in hydrogen requires one thing: making sure that the cost of the kilo of hydrogen goes as low as $2 per kilo. We are talking about $4 today. If you want to go to $2, it's a huge challenge. But again, we have a lot of wind, solar. If we seize the opportunity nicely, the cost of producing this kilowatt hour of electricity can go as low as 20 cents, 25 cents, of dirham. So that makes it, again, then feasible. I have some heads here that know these topics much better than I do. The shift in the use pattern also calls for a decarbonization of national industry, both to meet the climate agenda and to comply with European Union regulations, which account for 65% of our exports, namely the tax on carbon. And they have announced that they will have a tax by 2023 up to 2025. They will deploy it. No economic sanctions at that time, just to test the system. They will focus on 4 sectors: cement and 4 others, steel and 2 others. And then they might generalize it by 2025, meaning what? Meaning that if we sell 65% of our exports to Europe, we better make sure that our exports are decarbonized, the products are decarbonized. And how do you do that? Well, again, Morocco, good news is Morocco government has some good strategies. We'll see how they are deployed on the field, but at least I know that the Minister of Industry is working on making sure that the companies in Morocco are really making taking actions to make sure that they will decarbonize their products by 2023. So how do we do that? Well, of course, if you give renewable electricity to companies, then they are, by construction, decarbonizing their product. There is a good news. We have a law that allowed before only what we call the high tensions, which is, for example, the cement companies could buy from independent power producer electricity. Now that law is permitting going to the medium voltage, meaning that any industry operating can buy from these independent power producers. That, by the way, we are encouraging to come to Morocco. The thing is, the government, the state, doesn't want to produce electricity. It should be produced by independent power producers. That's really the main strategy focus. The other thing is that we can supply green electricity to industrial zones. We can provide financial support for energy efficiency projects. Hopefully, we'll see some huge advance there. We can also, there is also a product, in fact, it's a program that's called Tatweer Green Program for SMEs to support product development, decarbonized product development. And finally, we can have a certification program. We have a certification program, and green hydrogen can help also here. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my last topic. I'm coming back to the partnerships. This can be done only with partners. And of course, we are committed to play a key role in the field of renewable energy in the region, and by leveraging the strength and the comparative advantage, as mentioned earlier, our country is likely to boost its export to Europe of green electricity or green hydrogen or a combination of both, molecules and electrons. I mean, just choose what percentage you want. And there is a huge project going on with the UK company. It's called X-Links. And basically, if it happens, and they are committed to make it happen, they're going to build these huge solar plants back in the south, export electricity. This time it's electricity. They are thinking also about hydrogen, but in the second phase, export electricity to UK, and it can cover 10% of the UK, consumption per year. Again, just that can change the whole geostrategic, powers or in this region, which is great. Furthermore, instead of just exporting this green energy, we think that we can be an attractive hub for European companies seeking to establish themselves here in Morocco to decarbonize their productions and then use this renewable potential here in Morocco. And basically, if you ask me my point of view, I say that's the best thing that can happen, but we can also be flexible and think about exports and investment here in Morocco. Last, thank you very much. The road, the potential is huge. The road ahead is bumpy. We still need to, there is competition out there. Environment, changing in the world, some changes, so how it will affect. And we also have to do some institutional reforms to make all what I said happen quickly. But I'm confident we'll make it. Thank you very much.
Merci, Monsieur Chamy. I was right in my choice. But we will definitely talk about electrification and electric vehicles in the panel that will just follow. So we have already taken a bit of a delay in the program. Without further ado, I would like to now call to the stage my panelists, and I will start with Antonio Nunes de Sousa. He's the president of ASECAP. Antonio, yes, please join the stage. If can somebody escort him to the stage from here. I will call as well Radu Dinescu, is the president of the International Road Transport Union. Magali Anderson, Chief Sustainability Innovation Officer from Holcim, after my microphone. Christophe Santillon, Deputy Director General from Vinci Autoroute. Please help me welcoming them to the stage while they get seated. Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome to all of you. There's so much on our dish now, and we have to cover all this in 40 minutes. So the previous speakers have set the stage for us, and so it's my task now to try and navigate you through this conversation and try to make sure that we get all the expertise that relies in your hands. With all what has been said, I don't need to make any introduction to this session. I will go straight to the point, and I will turn to my dear fellow on the left, the infrastructure people, the tollway operators, the concessionaires, with a very simple, straightforward question. How that all this debate, all this scenario, and quite a daunting scenario that has been painted right now, translates and affects your work as tollway operators, and especially when it comes to decarbonization.
Thank you, Susanna. Before I answer your question, good morning, everyone. It's very good to be back to this lovely city of Marrakech to participate in this important conference. And first, I would like to thank sincerely to our host, the IRF President and Director General of Autorité du Maroc, Anwar Ben Azouz, for this kind invitation to ASECAP and the opportunity to speak on this opening ceremony. I recall with satisfaction that our two associations are bring together with very strong bonds of cooperation based on common beliefs and thoughts that tolling is an efficient tool to finance, build, operate, manage, and improve road infrastructure in benefit of the road users, the citizens, and why not the countries. So ASECAP members operate more than 82,000 kilometers of tolled roads, tolled motorways, financed thanks to the user pay principle across 19 countries in Europe, totalizing 128 companies, public and private, not only private companies, with 44,000 people working to provide safe mobility services. It is a great honor and satisfaction having Autorité du Maroc as an associate member of ASECAP. So regarding your question, we are facing common global challenges, starting with the recovery from the COVID, the pandemic that is impacting already the economy in Europe and here in Morocco, I believe. The conflict between Ukraine and Russia, with the invasion of Russia, has put more pressure on this, with an increase in energy costs, rising inflation, slower economic growth, and even recession. But on top of that, we should not forget that we had and still have a climate policy, which must remain one of our highest priorities. The consequences of climate change have been severe for the planet, as we could witnessing this year. once again, overflowed storms, tornadoes, forest fires, like in southern Europe, taking lives and causing enormous economic and social damage. This weather phenomenon will continue and worse if we are not changing our behavior, our daily behavior in our lives. We know that road transport is one of the biggest producers of greenhouse gas, and therefore it should be a priority for us to find solutions to reduce these emissions. The commitment of toll road infrastructure operators in ASECAP is to achieve the goals set up by the European Union, reduction of the greenhouse gas emissions by 55% by 2030 and 90% by 2050, in line with the Green Deal and the European Commission's ambitions to make Europe the first climate neutral by 2050. For this, it is urgent to act. And for concessionaires, it means that we have to prepare our infrastructure to receive cleaner vehicles by installing charging points for alternative fuels, and also include in our concessions, construction, maintenance, and daily operations measures that reduce the CO2 generated by our companies and our providers, of course. Very soon we'll have an European directive in alternative fuels, and governments must act to invest with us in this transformation.
Thank you. I think the financing part is not an irrelevant part, so we'll come back to that. I want to move from infrastructure to those who use the infrastructure and pass the floor now to Radu, who represents the International Road Transport Union, a real sister organization for us, because we are the infrastructure, you use the infrastructure with your members. What are the key three challenges right now in your sector? And then I want specifically to come back to this point on decarbonization and how that affects your own business.
Thank you very much first for inviting me here today. I'm honored to be in front of you, Your Excellencies, dear ministers, dear ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed what you mentioned. IRF has long been a close partner to IRU, and as we are running the buses, coaches, taxis, trucks, you're running the roads, so basically it's something that our services exactly, they address not only road transport for people and companies, but also our services are good for multimodal transport of passengers and of goods worldwide. Shortly, basically, not many things are moving without our services, because also road transport is part of multimodal transport in general. Of course, there are some challenges, and to name the top three challenges we are facing today, first, I have to say it's driver shortages. Second can be decarbonization and digitalization. But if you want to discuss about decarbonization straightforward, the biggest challenge is that the transport companies, they need to look forward to plan their investments in order to change their fleets. And that has to be done in a very predictable manner, because they have to know when they will be able to buy some vehicles available, what kind of vehicles will be available, and if they will be able to operate them in a sustainable way from economic point of view. So they have to know exactly when and what type of vehicles, trucks, buses, coaches will be available on the market. But as an industry, as IRU, we propose to have a green compact, which is basically a charter to decarbonize industry. It's a collective roadmap to decarbonize industry And as there is no one silver bullet to decarbonize the road transport, this Green Compact has like 5 pillars. And the first one is to introduce the low and zero carbon fuels. That means, okay, we are looking to electricity, we are looking to hydrogen, but you should not neglect existing technologies available for natural gas, which is compressed natural gas or liquefied natural gas. We have to remember across Europe there are 4,000 stations for compressed natural gas and like more than 400 for liquefied natural gas, and technology is already there. It's available for from most of manufacturers for cars and trucks or commercial vehicles. Biofuels as well, we have to look at them, and we have to make this progress. Also, if you are looking to Fit for 55, not only for zero carbon to 2050. The second pillar is trying to implement or to improve the logistic efficiency. And when we are looking to this, we are looking to carry more goods with less number of vehicles, and we call the eco trucks. 2 eco trucks basically will be able to carry the load of 3 traditional standard trucks in Europe. And of course, this can bring a serious contribution to decarbonization up to 30%. First pillar can bring with low and zero carbon fuels up to 40% contribution. The third pillar will be also to have collective passenger transport by road. And this pillar can contribute up to 20% reduction in the CO2 emissions in achieving this target. Fourth pillar is improving technologies for the vehicles, and we are talking about sometimes small things but with significant impact. Low rolling resistant tires or some aerodynamics elements for the vehicles, and all this can contribute up to 10% in the reduction of CO2 emissions. And last but not the least is training the drivers. Because they and educating them to drive vehicles in a sustainable way. And I can tell that from real life, this can bring up to 10% also a reduction in the fuel emissions. But this is a partnership also with public authorities in the various countries. And of course, the good thing is we have a quite great flexibility for regions and countries. And of course, solutions can differ from country to country and region to region. For sure, it's not the same solution for Morocco as for, I don't know, Mozambique, Moldova, or other countries.
Thank you so much, Radu. We'll come back to this issue of how technology can help and digitalization. But I want quickly to jump to Magali. Here we've seen infrastructure, we have the transporters, and I want to talk to you, Magali, as a representative of a giant in our industry when it comes to materials. And you have made the headlines as a company, and you, Magali, as well, for your engagement. How do we go from a company, how do we bring a company like Holcim, which is typically seen as a heavy polluter in the sector, a cement industry, to a net zero pledge and decarbonization?
Thank you, Susanna, and good morning, everybody. It's really a great honor to be here today in such distinguished panel and audience. So I'm so happy to be back. It's always a pleasure to come here to Morocco. So, well, you called us the big emitter, so let me rephrase that. Some people call us hard to abate sector, but I would also rephrase that into what I would call a world of opportunities sector, because that's exactly the sectors who are the big emitters, and this, we heard just before a lot of numbers, so I'm not going to kill you with more numbers now, but it's because we are emitting so much that we have incredible opportunities to entirely rethink the way we do things. So it's not just doing incremental change, it's really how do we change the business model, how do we change the way we build things. So, but to answer your question about the net zero pledge, so we embarked in that 2 years ago where we committed to net zero. But what we did since, which is more important than the commitment to net zero, is we had our entire pathway validated by an organization called SBTI, Science-Based Target Initiative, which really shows that what we are committing in terms of not just we will be at zero in 2050 and we might start working in 2045, that the full pathway, including our 2030 targets, etc., is consistent with our ambition. And that will require work on, sorry, I will use a couple of technical words, but what we call the famous Scope 1 and Scope 2, so Scope 1 being our own emission, and that's for the building materials sector a huge part, it's about 75%. That means using, we mentioned earlier, alternative fuels, using byproducts from other industries, etc. We love waste. We are a huge waste recycling company. Some people say we are a waste recycling company that makes cement as a byproduct, and I actually love that definition because we used 54 million tons of waste last year, and we have a target of 100 million tons of waste by 2030. So there's a lot of work on our Scope 1, a lot of work on our Scope 2, which is the energy we use, but that's relatively little. And the famous Scope 3, and maybe I will take 2 seconds on that because of what Radu just said, that's the rest of our value chain. In our case, we do a lot of transportation of our products. People don't necessarily think of Holcim as a transportation company, as we don't think of us as a waste company. But we do almost 2 billion kilometers per year with our trucks. And we were the first one in the sector to take a commitment to reduce that. And one of the things we have done is collaborate with First Mover Coalition, so we're one of the founding members, where basically we put demand in front of offer. So someone like us who are using a huge amount of trucks are committing that by 2030, every third truck we will buy will be low carbon. So we will rely on other people to provide it to us. But by making that commitment, we give the transporters the enough confidence that they can invest so that they will answer those commitments. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Absolutely, Magali, and I'm playing the evil's advocate here. I remember sitting once on a plane going to COP, and people are saying, "Oh, you do the road, the bad guys." No, we are a world of opportunities, in fact, and this event is exactly focused on that. Not general talking, but we're here to bring solutions and to show to the world that there's plenty of solutions in our sector. And as you have seen in the 3 first introductions, and that we have just heard how we are all connected to each other. I will ask the indulgence of Christophe for a few moments. I will come back to you. I want to use your examples as well to close this initial part, and I want quickly to come back to the 3 of you first, and then I'll get to Christophe on the issue of technology and to which extent each one of you has referred to technology and how it can help. I want specifically to get back to digitalization for each of your sectors to just show to the audience the potential that is actually there to ameliorate things and to meet those challenges. I'll start with Antonio first.
Yes, Susanna. Digitalization is very important for our companies and for our sector. I think the pandemic has shown that, for instance, in the cashless tolling, that we have lots of projects around the world, there was an acceleration in these projects in the United States, for instance, and others started during the pandemic. It shows that it's one way of digitalization that is very important to decarbonization, because with that we avoid the congestions in toll plazas, we avoid lots of emissions. This is one important thing that are coming from the near situation. But the operations in roads, the future with the connected and autonomous vehicles, it's necessary to prepare the infrastructure to the communications. It's very, very important with the communications V2I, with the control centers changing to managed and monitorized in a better way the operations. This is important also for the decarbonization in our companies, because with that we can also relieve a very quantity of emissions. And I think this, but for that we need public policies. We need to understand what the governments want to do about that.
I hear you. So you want certainty on the future for you to be able to step in and make those investments, of course. I fully understand that. Rado, you were mentioning a couple of things before. You made reference to logistics, to freight, to the importance of ameliorating efficiency in that respect, but then we get to a border and what happens?
Exactly. When it comes to digitalization, I think it's absolutely important to work close with the governments to accelerate the pace of digitalization. And here we appreciate that Morocco is playing a key role, as Morocco hosted recently a webinar with 18 countries and with the United Nations and the Islamic Development Bank and the IRU, discussing exactly about digital tools, about digital tier and digital tier, CMR and ECMR, which are exactly the tools that will make roads more efficient. Okay, we as transport operators, we appreciate every millimeter of the road, anywhere is built of good quality or better road. But as you said, if you go to the border crossing point, and there you spend 40% of the time necessary to perform a transport operation, sometimes even the drivers, they don't know what they are. Are they drivers, professional drivers, or are they the guardians of the trucks or of the vehicles? And I think in order to put in value this hard infrastructure, which are requiring a lot of investments, and to make them efficient, is necessary to consider the processes and to digitalize them. And I think here we, as we can contribute with tier convention and like e-tier, which can be used also in Morocco. Morocco is a member of tier, and to promote and to boost trade across Africa in the region. If Morocco, Maghreb, and Africa will use tier and e-tier, there are some surveys from African Union that basically the trade will double in Africa. And I think with these plans and projects Morocco is presenting to the world and of course to their own people and economy, Morocco has a great potential to be quite a significant hub for trade and using technologies, latest technologies here to connect Europe with Africa, but also with Middle East. I think there are great perspectives.
And we do look at Morocco as the example for Africa, but also beyond. I was fascinated by the intervention of Mr. Chami, in fact, on the potential that is actually there for you to lead, and even beyond Africa. I want to turn back to Magali again now. Digitalization, Holcim has been quite a pioneer in innovation in that respect. How does digitalization translates into your business, and so in terms of operations and roads and building roads?
So digitalization is absolutely key. And I could give you millions of examples. I could talk about how we do plants of tomorrow, where we are going to fully increase the efficiency of our plants. I could talk about 3D printing, where we can make, by placing the exact material where the compressive strength is going, you can reduce by more than 50 up to 70% how much concrete you put for the same object. All of this would be super interesting, but what you really want to hear about, I guess, is about road and transportation. So I will just dive in two examples. I mentioned earlier how we were really a huge transportation company. So we have entirely digitalized, not entirely, but 80% of our fleet, and our fleet being 95% transporters, actually quite a big exploit, where today I have a transport analytics center, and I know at every single time, every single one of my trucks, where they are. And that is a huge component for decarbonization, because that's how we can optimize routes, we can change trucks, we can decide where to invest into greener trucks, etc. So that's something we've put in place some years ago, which is now working quite well. And the other example, which I'm actually not going to explain right now because we have a session after, it's about ORIS, and it's about how do we design roads better, how do we use digitalization to design roads better, to find the resources, to go lower CO2. But if I go any further, my colleague over there, Nicolas, who is going to talk later, will be mad at me because I will be killing his speech. But just to say that there's several angles on digitalization which are really have become for us very central to our business model.
Thank you. Christophe a été très patient avec nous, donc je me retourne au français. Je vais vous passer la parole maintenant parce que je connais bien le travail de Vinci et justement, je voulais vous donner le temps de présenter certaines des solutions en fait, qui sont un peu la synthèse de tout ce qu'on vient discuter là. For the speakers, you have headsets for the translation. Je pense que vous allez parler en français.
Oui,
ça.
tout à fait. Merci tout d'abord, Susanna, et merci, Monsieur le Ministre et Monsieur le Président, de nous accueillir aussi formidablement. Et merci aussi à Anouar, président de l'IRF et président et à la tête d'ADM, de nous accueillir au Maroc avec une organisation qui est effectivement extrêmement impressionnante. 2022 aura été, je pense, en France, une année qui aura marqué les esprits, puisqu'elle aura quelque part concrétisé pour tous les Français les conséquences du changement climatique. Nous avons connu des gels, nous avons connu des inondations, nous avons connu des tempêtes, nous avons connu des sécheresses et des incendies. Et tout ça, c'est la concrétisation de ce qui nous attend. Et tout ça, ça montre à quel point, effectivement, le changement climatique, c'est l'affaire de tous et c'est une urgence à traiter. En France, Monsieur le Ministre, Monsieur le Président, vous l'indiquiez, en France, on est encore un peu plus un cran en avance, si je puis dire, sur l'importance des transports dans les gaz à effet de serre. Le secteur émet 30%. C'est devenu le secteur le plus émetteur en France. Et c'est celui qui ne réduit pas. Et donc on a un enjeu absolument crucial à faire en sorte que la décarbonisation de l'économie française, elle se traduise par une décarbonisation des transports. Mais en France, encore plus peut-être que dans d'autres pays, 85% des déplacements quotidiens passent par la route. Et 95% des émissions de gaz à effet de serre du transport viennent de la route. Donc décarboner l'économie, c'est décarboner la mobilité routière. Et c'est l'enjeu qu'on se fixe. Comme dit notre président Xavier Huillard, on est une part du problème, on doit être une part de la solution et proposer des solutions. 3 illustrations pour cela. La première que vous voyez à l'écran, vous allez me dire pour une autoroute c'est un petit peu statique, c'est ce qu'on appelle la plateforme d'échange multimodal, un nom un peu compliqué, de Longvilliers. Nous sommes à 35 km au sud de Paris et ce qui a été construit et mis en service à la fin de l'année 2020 pour le compte de notre contractant, l'État français, c'est ce parking. Il vise à quoi? À changer les comportements parce que c'est une des manières de décarboner. Les gens qui viennent ici, sur ce parking qui est accolé à l'autoroute, ils viennent pour faire du covoiturage ou ils viennent dans le bâtiment que vous voyez au fond pour prendre des bus. Et ça, c'est pour intensifier les usages de l'autoroute et pour participer à la sobriété qui est absolument indispensable. Sur ce parking, il y a également des bornes et de recharge électrique et on est en train de les multiplier puisque la demande est là. Sur cette deuxième image, on illustre dans quelques mois, dans quelques années, à quoi ressemblera une aire de service sur autoroute où on aura complètement concrétisé le basculement de la voiture au véhicule électrique. Ce n'est pas une vision totalement trop futuriste, ce n'est pas de la science-fiction, c'est la réalité. Dans nos calculs, quand nous regardons comment le parc de voitures évolue, et il évolue plus vite que toutes les prévisions qui étaient faites jusqu'à présent, on se rend compte qu'une aire de service d'autoroute qui doit permettre de recharger, elle comportera 100 à 150 bornes de recharge dans les grosses aires chez nous, qui sont plus grandes. Pourquoi on fait ça? Parce qu'aujourd'hui, vous faites le plein en 3 minutes. Demain, vous rechargez votre véhicule électrique en 20 à 30 minutes. Ça veut dire que là où vous avez aujourd'hui 6 ou 10 pompes, vous devrez avoir ce nombre absolument considérable de places. Ces places prennent plus de largeur et donc il faut complètement reconstruire l'aire. Et puis, ça veut dire qu'en termes de puissance, chacune de ces bornes, ce sont des bornes rapides, parce qu'on ne prend pas l'autoroute pour attendre 1 heure et demie que le véhicule recharge. Chacune de ces bornes fait au moins 150 kW. Ce qui veut dire que les aires de service importantes chez nous, elles vont nécessiter d'apporter autant d'énergie que pour un aéroport. Et ça, des aires de service, on en a tous les 50 km. C'est indispensable parce que c'est lié à la faible autonomie des véhicules électriques. Et ça veut dire qu'il faut apporter l'équivalent d'une alimentation d'aéroport 170 fois sur notre réseau autoroutier, 300 fois en France. C'est un investissement important et on est en train de rééquiper en électricité, mais d'une autre manière, nos pays et nos infrastructures. Et c'est ça le challenge qu'on a à faire en assurant qu'on ait un réseau dense, pour pas que les gens tombent en panne, disponible, de haute qualité, qui soit pas trop cher, parce que sinon les véhicules ne prendront pas, et qui soit durable dans le temps. Et là-dessus, on a effectivement à la fois un challenge industriel et un challenge de financement à relever. Si on se projette encore un cran plus loin, après-demain, on arrive à une vision un peu plus futuriste, mais un peu plus holistique, si je puis dire, où on doit traiter toutes les dimensions. La route est consommatrice d'énergie et nos clients en ont besoin. C'est un besoin social, c'est un besoin économique, mais la route peut et doit être aussi une source de production d'énergie renouvelable. C'est ce qu'on a illustré avec des panneaux solaires sur toutes les surfaces qui sont disponibles, avec notre système de recharge, et puis aussi pour les véhicules lourds, on est en train de réfléchir à quelle est la bonne solution. On l'évoquait, il y a de l'hydrogène, et ça sera certainement une partie de la réponse. Il y aura de l'électrique, et la question qu'on se pose, c'est comment fournir cette électricité. Je vous ai parlé déjà des enjeux pour les seules voitures, à apporter l'équivalent de l'électricité d'un aéroport pour les seules voitures. On multiplie par 2 ou par 3 si tous les camions basculent à la batterie. Et c'est pour ça qu'on parle d'autoroute électrique et qu'on va tester dès l'année prochaine pour voir si on est capable d'alimenter, voire de recharger des camions directement à partir de l'infrastructure. On a aussi des sujets environnementaux qui sont illustrés, c'est-à-dire que l'autoroute, elle doit s'intégrer plus. On a ce qu'on appelle un couloir de continuité écologique. On doit traiter la capacité de traverser les autoroutes. Et ça, c'est des problèmes de sécurité, mais c'est des problèmes d'intégration dans des milieux naturels ou dans des milieux urbains. Et puis, on a aussi comment on fait en sorte de fournir un avantage à tous ceux qui densifient l'utilisation de l'autoroute. Ça veut dire des parkings de covoiturage, ça veut dire transformer des aires en aires d'arrêt de bus, ça veut dire de réserver des voies pour le covoiturage. Et puis, c'est aussi des solutions technologiques et digitales pour améliorer la qualité au service, permettre les véhicules connectés et les véhicules autonomes, et aussi aller vers le free flow. Pour nous, c'est améliorer considérablement la technologie du péage pour qu'on ait l'expérience la plus performante possible et pour faire en sorte que quand on supprime les barrières et donc on améliore la fluidité, qu'on réduit la consommation d'électricité, on n'a aucun problème d'expérience client, on n'a aucun problème de détection et qu'on est, avec l'intelligence artificielle, capable effectivement de délivrer une performance durable. Tout ça, c'est une vision, c'est des solutions qu'on a étudiées, qu'on a chiffrées. Pour 1000 km d'autoroute, il y en a pour 5 à 6 milliards d'investissements. Ça peut paraître beaucoup, mais c'est les échelles qui sont en jeu pour avoir une vision à 2035-2050. C'est faisable, mais ça suppose effectivement, comme on l'indiquait, aussi une capacité financière. Et c'est là où nous ne sommes pas les décideurs, nous sommes des proposeurs, nous sommes ceux qui ont conçu ça, qui sommes assurés de la faisabilité, y compris financière, mais ça nécessite effectivement de réfléchir à la manière dont on peut financer ça pour que, in fine, on ait une véritable mobilité durable.
C'est un point fondamental. Merci beaucoup. J'ai Antonio ici qui est en train de de transpirer avec tous ces milliards d'investissements. Merci beaucoup. Vous comprenez pourquoi je l'ai gardé à la fin. C'était une bonne façon de conclure cette première partie. Je m'excuse avec la production, mais je dois absolument prendre encore 10 minutes. On prendra un peu de retard parce que je vais maintenant aborder la deuxième partie de ce titre. And I will switch into English now. We have just talked about decarbonization, financing and investments, and digitalization. But you concluded your intervention on a key point, customers and service, which means and rhymes with people. And I want to get back to that part of people and to address now the second part of the title of our conference, because sustainable mobility means, yes, efficiency, yes, environment, but in our sector rhymes a lot with the safety as well. I was looking at your picture and I was like, where is the safety in all that? I want to give an opportunity to all of you to address this issue of safety and people. I will start with Antonio and ASECAP because we work very closely together, and so I know the commitment of ASECAP towards road safety.
Okay, indeed. Well, when we sign a contract with the state or the grantor, there are nothing about road safety, but we know we have a social contract. The companies have a social contract that is road safety first and congestion-free traffic. It is part of our contract to maintain and operate the network in the safest conditions. In motorways, we have the lowest fatality rate, 2.1 per billion kilometer traveled, compared, of course, with other roads. But because if you compare with other means of transport, we lose with railway, with ships, with planes, we lose. So we have to turn around this. And so it's not enough what we are doing. So our ambition is to reach the one set by the Commission, the Vision Zero accidents in 2050. This is very important for us. For that, we can try a safe system approach, which will ensure safer vehicles and safer infrastructure to prevent human failure, because it's the most of the causes of the accidents, and to create a new road safety opportunities to achieve this Vision Zero. We foreseen that connectivity and automation will be additional solutions for this. This automation will be I think the main solution that will drive us to zero accidents. Let me just conclude with this. About the economic return in terms of business investment of the road safety, the Portuguese Agency for Road Safety recently published a study developed by ISEG. ISEG is one management and economics school in Lisbon, and the study on the economic and social impact of road accidents, in which the value of the economic and social costs to the country with road accidents in 2019 was estimated at 6.4 billion euros, 6.4 billion, which represents around 3% of the GDP of our country. So let me only conclude that is one of the main reasons that ASECAP is preparing a sustainability report in which this KPI, the KPIs about road safety, economic supporting environment will show that the toll road operators respond to the needs of the sustainable mobility in a broader perspective. And this report will be published and presented at the ASECAP Days taking place in Brussels on next month, November 24th and 25th of next month, and we all invited to this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Très très vite, je vais vite aller chez Christophe. Est-ce que c'est l'automatisation, les voitures autonomes, est-ce que c'est une vraie solution pour le problème de la sécurité routière? J'ai besoin des réponses vite.
Très courtes. 2 éléments d'automatisation. Effectivement, d'ores et déjà, on doit la sécurité à nos clients et ça veut dire qu'on doit s'organiser pour leur fournir une infrastructure sûre, mais aussi tous les services qui les informent s'il y a le moindre problème, avec une chaîne intégrée et multicanal. C'est-à-dire que nos informations sur il y a un problème, ce sont des informations certifiées et qui sont transmises par la radio, par les applications, par Twitter, par tous les canaux que nous pouvons pour informer nos clients plus vite. Et nous travaillons sur le véhicule connecté notamment parce qu'un certain nombre d'incidents ne peuvent pas être détectés électroniquement, mais ils peuvent être perçus par l'infrastructure. Après ce virage, vous avez un problème et c'est ce qu'on est en train d'expérimenter, notamment dans un duplex du côté de Paris, pour fournir en temps réel cette information de sécurité qui permettra d'aller plus vite que ce qu'on est capable de faire de l'extérieur. Le dernier point qu'on peut signaler, c'est que en France, la première cause d'accident mortel qu'on a sur nos autoroutes, c'est ce qu'on appelle l'hypovigilance. C'est-à-dire que comme les autoroutes sont parfois un peu trop rassurantes pour les conducteurs ne font plus forcément attention à ce qu'il faut, à ce qui se passe. Et donc il faut qu'on soit en capacité, là aussi par les véhicules connectés, d'améliorer la vigilance du véhicule, si ce n'est du conducteur, pour améliorer notre bilan sécuritaire.
Merci beaucoup. I'm coming back to you, Radu. You mentioned right at the beginning as one of the key challenges, the shortage of drivers. And so there's a close connection as well in between drivers' behavior, fatigue, shortage of drivers' safety. And then I will go to that lady because I think she has an answer for you on that problem.
Yes, the driver shortage is present all over the world today, unfortunately, and with knock-on effects into supply chains and the wider economy. If you don't have enough drivers, you cannot move the goods at the right time in the right place. But yes, we are working on these aspects as IRU. Together also with European Commission in Europe, but also at the local level with private institutions or with the governments, because the problem again is not only in Europe, it's in Argentina, in Canada, in United States, in Middle East, everywhere. So trying to better train the drivers and to improve the conditions for the drivers, to have more secure parking lots. We are missing a lot of parking lots, secure parking lots in Europe as well. To promote young drivers, and of course women, we are looking to this potential. Unfortunately, the number of women, I think, is quite reduced, like 3% in general. Only some exceptions in China, 5%, and US, 8%, but otherwise the number is pretty low. Also, we are offering a lot of solutions for transport companies in order to make their life as easy as possible and to predict as much as possible their activity. And we have here in Morocco a good example of company ALSA, which is a coach operator, running our Road Masters risk and talent management solution, which helps ALSA to better motivate their drivers and also to increase the safety and the quality of their services. And so far, already 1,200 drivers were certified here in Casablanca. So there are a lot of examples that everywhere there are some steps that can be done. But we need some solutions for now, including we are calling lowering the age to 18 years old, again, to basically returning to this age, because in Europe, until 2013, this was the age to have the driving license to drive a truck. And now we are trying to convince everyone to come back, because not age is about safety, but the training. And we have good examples from our partners and colleagues in Netherlands showing that people driving from 18 to 21, they are not making more accidents than the drivers that are above this 21. So there are a lot of possible solutions, and we are working, trying to help industry and the economy as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Magali, this gives me a perfect assist to get to you and the Women on Wheel program.
Yes, so that's one of my babies, and I absolutely love it. Exactly looking at, if you look at the equation, 3% female drivers, shortage of drivers, half of the world population is an untapped talent pool, and female drivers, I'm sure you all agree with me, are much better drivers than men, so they are much safer, so you solve your safety problem in the same time. So when you think that way, and you think, okay, so if I can make a hard-to-abate sector into a full of opportunity sector, certainly I could find a way to change the mindset and attract this talent pool. So it's a work we initiated 4 or 5 years ago. We've been running school academies for women. So we run them in Nigeria, in Kenya, in Uganda. We've got about 300 female truck drivers, way not enough. I expect to reach more than 1,000 this year. But to give you an idea, the last country that onboarded was Ecuador, and they launched a registration. They opened a platform for ladies to register to become truck drivers. They had 25 places. They had to stop because they had more than 1,000 applicants. So if anyone here works with Ecuador, and you can open rapidly school academy for female truck drivers, we have 975 ladies waiting to be trained because they want to become truck drivers. So I think if we stop thinking, if we change our mindset and we say, we need to find a way to attract ladies and tell them that they are fully qualified to do that job, then we will attract them and we will solve your talent problem, we will solve your safety problem, we will solve all the problems at the same time.
Thank you so much, Magali. I have, unfortunately, to look at my watch, and I'm terrible for cutting this conversation. But I wanted to give you still one sentence, if you were able here in one sentence to send a message to regulators, policymakers, or the industry out there, what would that message be? Who wants to go first? Antonio.
Maybe I do. Well, I think it's very important, and we have the minister here, to have public policies. We have to know what the governments are thinking, what European Commission are thinking in our case, because we are, as partners, we are ready to do what if is necessary. We could finance, we could give ideas, we are very innovative, and the partnership with private is that good sound of innovation, but we need public policies.
Thank you very much. I think it's not always, private sector asking from the governments only money or investment or finance. It's also about having the framework, the legal framework to allow sometimes private sector to invest or to promote, to deploy various technologies, because sometimes, or to connect various systems. Now it's, again, I can refer to digitalization, adopting protocols for ECMR, for ETIR, giving the opportunity to the industry to invest and to use these technologies, giving the opportunity to the industry to promote, or as you mentioned, to generate electricity, to produce electricity here in Morocco. I give this example, and also, so basically the legal framework, I think, is in the hand of the authorities, and sometimes you have to realize that a paper can bring quite a lot of opportunities by giving the chance to private sector to step in and basically to help solving the governmental, economical, and social problems in various countries. Thank you.
So in addition to what my two colleagues just said, I would add making sure that the low carbon construction of infrastructure, of everything else, is incentivized. And there is a very simple way to do it. Tomorrow morning, every single public tender includes in the requirement producing what we call EPDs, which is environmental product declarations, which looks at the total life cycle of any product so that you can choose the right construction, the right material for the right usage at the lowest carbon.
And that gives an incentive to the market to grow. You're basically pushing the bar high. Christophe.
En une phrase, c'est qu'effectivement, pour répondre aux urgences de plus en plus grandes, économiques, écologiques et sociales, il y a une vraie force de proposition pour avoir une approche complète, pour faire en sorte que notre mobilité routière devienne résiliente, devienne technologique et devienne bas carbone. Et on est prêt à répondre à ce challenge sur l'ensemble du panel qu'on doit adresser.
Merci. Et accessible à tous. C'est aussi très important. Please join me in welcoming, in thanking very warmly all these speakers. I am sorry that I had to cut the conversation, but all what you have heard here will be also discussed in more details in the next panel. I have shortened now your coffee break to 15 minutes, so please make sure you are back. The coffee is served on that side, so you can just walk and turn left and be back at 11:15, please. Thank you.